Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So we have a massive one here for you, a lot to go through. The Lord of the Rings, well it's not really Lord of the Rings, but Amazon's Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings in-name only series, has faced a lot of criticism recently because the show, apparently from what I've heard, I've only watched a few minutes, is not very good. Now what do we hear from these companies and outlets like the media sites when these shows are receiving negative criticism, where they go on the attack and they say the fans are either racist, sexist, misogynist, whatever it is. And that's happening again now because Lord of the Rings on Prime Twitter account has just posted this. We're really proud of the cast that we have in the show. We welcome discussion and even criticism around the series. However, we will not condone racism of any kind. That was the head of Amazon Studios, Jen Psaki, as reported by the LA Times. Now, where have we seen this before? We've seen this before many times over the past few years, mostly with Star Wars, Marvel actors as well, which we'll get into. But they also posted a follow-up, which is this one here. Now it says, we stand in solidarity with our cast. Now what does it say? We, the cast of Rings of Power, stand together in absolute solidarity and against the relentless racism, threats, harassment, and abuse some of our castmates of color are being subjected to on a daily basis. We refuse to ignore it or tolerate it. J.R.R. Tolkien created a world which by definition is multicultural, multiracial. You got elves, dwarves, hobbits, men. There's a lot of different races. It's not just about skin colors of those races though, which Tolkien did actually define, which we'll get into. A world in which free peoples from different races and cultures join together in fellowship to defeat the forces of evil. Rings of Power reflects that. Well, Rings of Power is only based on a few pages of the appendices, and they've done completely whatever they want with it, and it's gone completely away from Tolkien. We'll get to that. Our world has never been all white. No one said it was. People are just saying, here's what Tolkien said, and here's what you're doing with this show. It's completely different. Middle Earth is not all white. BIPOC belong in Middle Earth, and they are here to stay. Alrighty then. Finally, all our love and fellowship go out to the fans supporting us, especially fans of color who are themselves being attacked simply for existing in this fandom. I don't know who the hell's being attacked just because they're a person of color. I've not seen that. I've seen people saying a bunch of stuff like skewing the language around the term fair-skinned, which we'll get to, because they want to say fair doesn't mean fair of skin. Fair means beautiful. I've seen people say that to me. I'm like, okay, that's actually not what Tolkien described. So we're trying to rewrite whatever Tolkien wrote just because it fits with our own comfortable narrative that they want to project, I guess, in this current day and age. It's got nothing to do with the story anymore, the Tolkien's lore anymore. It's got to do with, what do I want? I want to see myself on the screen. I'm a person of color. I need to see myself. I don't care what the text says. Well, then it's not Tolkien. And then whenever you get backlash, this happens. And you've got to come out and say, it's racist and sexist and all these things. Everyone's getting attacked. No, your show is just shit, alright? And then I want to talk about cosplays and you're valid, you are loved. Okay, but this has nothing to do with the actual show and the criticism for the show. Because you knew what you were doing when you did this. Like, it happened with Star Wars as well. You bring in a minority character who never existed in the original canon. So when you get backlash from people who say, hey, this is not what the story said, then you can say, you're a racist. It's like, no, I'm just saying, here's what the book says, and nothing of that is in there. So it's not about being racist. It's got to do with, it's not what he wrote. Because leading into that, this is what the reactions have been from people who have seen the show. 85% on the critics ratings. Okay, the critics ratings, all right? 85%. No one believes Rotten Tomatoes anyway, because if you look at the disparity between Rotten Tomatoes scores from over the past few years, with movies and TV shows, it's all over the place. So 39% score on the audience rating with like 21,500 nearly user ratings. I don't know how it stayed at 39%. I thought it would have gone a bit lower. But anyway, it's at 39% right now. And IMDb actually had to lock their ratings because they were getting racist backlash. So they didn't want to get any trolls. This is what they said. And it's currently at 6.7 out of 10 when it was at 6. So it's gone up to 6.7. And if you look at the individual episodes, they have gone from like 7s or like high 6s to 7.4 each. They're trying to pump up the ratings there somehow as well because Amazon owns IMDb. So they would want that rating right here to look better than 6 out of 10. So they pumped it back up to the 6.7. This is what has been happening. The fans hate this show. You've got 1.9 million dislikes on the main trailer that came out back in February. This is 50,000 comments, but hundreds of thousands of comments on different videos, different trailers and teasers for this with millions of dislikes. So people are absolutely destroying this show, trashing it left and right, saying this isn't Tolkien, this is generic fantasy, and most of all, it's pretty boring. There's a couple of cool shots here and there, but the story isn't what Tolkien wrote, and overall it's pretty boring. That's what I've heard a lot of people say. But now, because they're going with the narrative, the mainstream's going with the narrative that it's racist backlash, we've got a few articles here. We've got Deadline, The Lord of the Rings OG stars plead for inclusivity amid racist backlash against the Rings of Power. So we had Elijah Wood, Billy Boyd, and we had Don Monahan come out in this image where they've got this new t-shirt that's come out from this person here apparently. And you also had Sean Astin as well wearing the hat. So these shirts, you can see there's different colored ears on them. So different skin pigmentation because fair of skin doesn't mean that. It means beautiful apparently. So it's got the different colored ears. They're representing a t-shirt that says, "You all are welcome here." And you can get your own t-shirt, hoodie, sticker, and other merch here. So they actually have merch, and Elijah Wood tweeted that out, "You're all welcome here." So they've got the original cast to basically bend over and wear this new merch that goes against what Tolkien wrote just because fans need to see themselves on screen these days. And here's the merch shop. So you can get the t-shirt there, you can get hoodies, other stuff. So they're making money off inclusivity and stuff in Tolkien. When here's a comment that someone posted under Elijah Wood's post. This is the quote here. He was talking about Eldar, so the elves. They were tall, fair of skin, and grey-eyed. Though their locks were dark, so their hair was dark, except for one of the houses, which was Finarfin's house. It says right there, fair of skin. And I've been getting responses to say fair means beautiful, not what the skin color was. I'm like, all right. That's ridiculous, but if you want to get into that, you can look at this. Fair-skinned in British English. We're talking about Lord of the Rings, Tolkien, British. Having pale skin or pale complexion. And then, if you go to the appendices in Lord of the Rings, exact same quote we just saw. They were tall, fair of skin, and grey-eyed. So, based on the British English version of fair-skinned, it means having pale skin and all pale skin complexion. So the semantics of this, trying to use the word as meaning beautiful, is because there is a character that they have brought in called Tamriel, which is actually a character in the Silmarillion and is referenced in the appendices of Return of the King. However, they've race swapped her because they wanted a strong female character and a person of color, and they wanted to make her the queen when she never was, because the throne was usurped from her, which you can see right here. His daughter should have been the fourth queen, Tamriel, but the king's nephew usurped the scepter and became Ar-Pharazôn the Golden, the last king of the Númenóreans. Right down here. So she was never actually the queen. But you can't say anything about that because the actress is now a person of color. They made this actress here, who I liked in other things as well, other shows, got nothing against the actress, but they race swapped the character to fit with current day agendas. And if you look at the one right here, this is a fan creation of it, in keeping with the description of Tamriel, fairer than silver or ivory or pearls. And a lot of people said, no, it just means beautiful, it doesn't reference her skin color. I'm like, well, why would you compare it to ivory or pearls? Look at those colors. Ivory, you know what color ivory is. All right, anyway. Let's keep going because there is so much more to go through on this. So the original stars of the Lord of the Rings film series by Peter Jackson are coming together to plead for inclusivity amid a racist backlash against the series The Rings of Power. It's not The Lord of the Rings. I don't know why they called it. Well, I know why they called it The Lord of the Rings, because it's going to get people to watch the show. The only way they would get people to watch this show is if they put the Lord of the Rings name on it. There is no way that anyone will watch this show if they didn't know it was related to Lord of the Rings. No way. So Ismael Cruz Cordova, who plays the elven warrior Arondir, who is this person right here, even though elves are not described like that, but racism, he tweeted out, much love. He opened up about having to fight racist trolls on social media. I fought so hard for this role for this very reason. I felt that I could carry the torch. I made sure that my elf was the most elven, the most incredible, because I knew this was coming. So you knew there was going to be a racist backlash, because why? Because you're a person of color on screen, or because Tolkien never wrote elves that way, or never described them in that way. And you know that what Amazon is doing is changing Tolkien's lore to fit a narrative for 2022. That's the only way you knew that it was coming, because you knew what Amazon was doing with your character and with other characters that they put in this show, and the way they've changed Galadriel as well. And they're trying to get the original cast back together to push out this narrative that you're all welcome here. Yes, so is everyone else, but this is not what it's about, and you know that. And then we also have another article that just come out. They're doing it lockstep. Variety puts out an article, Deadline puts out an article, the Lord of the Rings on Prime Twitter account puts out a tweet So it's all coming out at the same time. The Rings of Power cast condemns racism facing castmates of color. We refuse to ignore it or tolerate it. So they came out condemning the relentless racism, threats, harassment, and abuse some of our castmates of color are being subjected to on a daily basis. The hobbits, if you want to talk about the half-wits, yeah, it says browner of skin, okay? But nowhere are the characters that you've race swapped or introduced as original characters, like Disa, like Halbrand, they don't exist. That's what we're saying. This is the Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, and this is the appendices in my hand right now. This is the whole appendices from page 1045 to 1146. Just about 100 pages. This much covers a lot of the Third Age, so not got to do with anything that the Rings of Power is doing. These first 6 pages are First and Second Age that talk about the Númenórean kings and the rulers and what happened in the Silmarillion, which Amazon doesn't have the rights to. But then you go on and it talks about the Third Age, the stewards of Gondor, how everything that happened, Aragorn and Arwen, and then it talks about languages, seasons, family histories, and the final appendix is the languages and people of the Third Age. Technically, you could discount the whole Appendix F, but I've gone through this a few times now, and I have found 20 pages of the 100 or so, 20 pages that actually reference the First Age or the Second Age or ancient times, which Amazon has the rights to. I am conceding that Amazon is not allowed to use Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, or any of those other works, which they claimed that they're not allowed to use. So I'm going to go off what Amazon has the rights to, and they have about 20 pages of Tolkien's Return of the King appendices that reference First Age, Second Age, or ancient times that they can use for their show. So we know that none of this has anything to f***ing do with the First Age or the Second Age. Silmarillion, none of it has anything to do with it. There's like maybe a tiny little bit that they have with a couple of characters that exist. The rest of it, I have no idea. That they're just going to make it up as they go. And that's why people are so pissed off about this, because it's got nothing to do with what Tolkien wrote. And the people who are against this are saying all this shit you put in the show has nothing to do with it. And then they can put their shield out there and say you're racist because you're attacking people of color, because you don't want them in this show. It's like, you know what you were doing when you made this show. You're going to put people of color in roles that they should not be in because it was never written that way. And then when you get backlash, you say it's the fans' fault and they're all racist. This isn't a new playbook. We've been seeing this for years now. We saw this firstly with Star Wars. We've seen it multiple times with Star Wars, when they created a new character for the Obi-Wan show, and then when people said this is bullshit, they said, you're racist. Don't choose to be a racist. Star Wars told their fans, don't choose to be a racist. Just because they were like, hey, this is a stupid idea, and it changes everything about the original and the prequel trilogies. What happened with Star Wars when they were talking about Reva, what's her name? Moses Ingram. John Boyega wanted to chime in, but look what Disney did with John Boyega. Remember what happened in the China poster? Oh yeah, they shrunk him. So who was more racist? The fans saying, hey, you should have had John Boyega, prominent black character you had in that series, the sequels. You should have had him. You baited and switched because he was holding the lightsaber and you knew exactly that he wasn't going to be doing anything. And you shrunk him on the China poster. Who are the racist ones now? Pandering to other countries because they don't want those kind of people on their posters? Are you serious? And you've got, we're the racists? Alright, so as I was editing, Star Wars actually responded to Lord of the Rings on Prime and said, from Middle-earth to a galaxy far, far away, you are all welcome here. Because as I just showed you, they've been doing the same thing, but they've been going through the same thing and projecting the same stuff that Lord of the Rings is now wanting to push out, and this narrative they want to push out, that it's racist backlash. It's always racist backlash. It's not just the fans that are saying, hey, this is what the book says, this is what the movie says, or the TV show, whatever. This is what character is. This is not what's supposed to be happening in the show or the movie or the book. But when they have a shield to hide behind that says, I'm a minority character, you can't say anything about it because you're a racist. And Star Wars here just adding fuel to the fire, maybe preparing for the Andor series, which is on their Twitter handle right now. Andor premieres September 21. Now I heard there's going to be a fair few prominent female characters in that one as well, as Star Wars has been doing for the past few years now. So they're probably just gearing up for that so that they can tag on to whatever Lord of the Rings is doing right now and say, hey, look, we were supportive of Lord of the Rings, and then maybe Prime's going to tweet out something when Star Wars gets backlash for the Andor series. That's all I'm guessing. They just want to buddy up with each other so they can hold hands and say, we're being attacked. Unbelievable. And then we also saw Miss Marvel creator had to respond to racist backlash against the series. I stopped watching Miss Marvel basically because it was boring, not because she was the first female Muslim character in the MCU. It was just boring. But there you go, attacking the fans again. She-Hulk actress addresses sexist backlash. Everyone's a racist. Everyone's a sexist if you don't like the show. That's all we're seeing. That is all we are seeing in current day TV, movies, anything. Good for Lord of the Rings on Prime for standing up to and being in solidarity with their cast who were being told, hey, this isn't Tolkien's work, but they want to claim it's racism. Blame the fans, attack the fans, just because they wanted some modicum of respect for Tolkien's work. But we knew we were never going to get that because they don't have the rights to the time periods that they wanted to make the show on. They bought the rights to The Hobbit and the appendices of Return of the King, which has, as I said, 20 or so pages that references the time period they're doing in this show. Basically, none of it's Tolkien, and they're just making up all this shit for their own gain, putting Lord of the Rings on the name of the show so they can make money off it and get people to watch it, and then attack the fans and call them racist whenever they say, hey, this is wrong and this is not supposed to be happening in this show. So there you have it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share this video out there, and I'll see you on the next one.